in previous talks and formed positive consensus on relevant tariff arrangements. China and the United States will also establish trade and investment councils to address their respective concerns in trade and investment cooperation. Through the Trade Council, the two sides will discuss issues such as tariff reductions on specific products, and they have agreed in principle to lower tariffs on products of respective concern on an equivalent scale. In addition, the two countries will resolve or make substantive progress towards resolving non-tariff barriers and market access issues involving some agricultural products. Russia and China are moving quickly to reinforce their strategic alliance following the U.S. President Donald Trump's high-level visit to Beijing, with President Vladimir Putin now set for fresh talks with Chinese leader Xi Jinping next week. The meeting comes as Moscow deepens reliance on Beijing amid the continuing war in Ukraine and mounting pressure from Western sanctions.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says Tehran is prepared for renewed military confrontation with the United States if ongoing negotiations collapse. The warning comes as Iranian officials.
Дорогой друг, очень рад вас приветствовать и видеть.
The Kremlin says Russian President Vladimir Putin will travel to Beijing on May 19th for a two-day summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Officials say both leaders will discuss economic cooperation, strategic relations, and key international developments. The visit coincides with the 25th anniversary of the Sino-Russian Treaty of Friendship signed in 2001. Relations between Moscow and Beijing have expanded significantly since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 isolated the Kremlin from much of the West. China has since emerged as one of Russia's most important economic and diplomatic partners. The announcement followed President Donald Trump's recent meetings in Beijing, adding fresh geopolitical attention to growing competition among major global powers. Meanwhile, fighting between Russia and Ukraine continued alongside prisoner exchanges involving hundreds of captives from both sides. Ukraine also says Russia returned the bodies of more than 500 individuals believed to be Ukrainian servicemen. Overnight, drone attacks were also reported across both countries, with Ukrainian authorities reporting strikes in Odessa, while Moscow claimed it intercepted more than 100 Ukrainian drones across several regions, including areas near Moscow and Crimea.
Iran is escalating pressure on Washington with fresh warnings that failure to resolve ongoing tensions could trigger deeper global economic instability and push the United States towards a financial downturn. Tehran says disruptions linked to the Gulf conflict are already affecting global energy markets, borrowing costs, and inflation beyond the Middle East.
Mr. Abbas Araghchi says Tehran is prepared for renewed military confrontation with the United States if ongoing negotiations collapse. The warning comes as Iranian officials intensify public messaging over the economic consequences of prolonged regional tensions. According to Iranian authorities, disruptions around the Strait of Hormuz have already contributed to rising fuel prices and financial uncertainty in international markets. Tehran argues that the economic impact is beginning to spread beyond the Middle East. Iranian officials also claim prolonged instability could worsen inflation, increase borrowing costs, and trigger wider financial pressure inside the United States. Parliament Speaker Mohammed Bagher criticized Washington's military spending while accusing the United States of deepening the Gulf crisis. Meanwhile, Iranian politician Ibrahim Azizi says Tehran is preparing a new traffic and toll collection system for vessels operating through the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian authorities said details of the proposed mechanism will be unveiled soon.
Venezuela has handed over one of former President Nicolas Maduro's closest associates to the United States in a dramatic political reversal that could deepen corruption investigations linked to the former administration. Businessman Alex Saab, once celebrated as a key Maduro ally, now faces renewed legal scrutiny in the United States after being deported from Venezuela.
Venezuelan authorities say businessman Alex Saab has been deported to the United States over multiple ongoing criminal investigations. The Colombian-born businessman had previously been released in a prisoner exchange before returning to Venezuela as a prominent figure within the Maduro administration. American investigators have long accused Saab of acting as a financial intermediary for President Nicolas Maduro and facilitating controversial government business deals. U.S. prosecutors have also examined alleged bribery schemes connected to Venezuelan club food assistance program. The program was introduced during years of economic collapse and hyperinflation to provide subsidized food supplies to struggling Venezuelans. Saab's influence reportedly weakened after Venezuela's political transition earlier this year removed Maduro from power. Since assuming office, acting President Delcy Rodriguez reportedly stripped Saab of official responsibilities and sidelined him from government investment operations. For months, conflicting reports surround Saab's whereabouts, including claims that he was either detained or under house arrest. His deportation is now expected to intensify investigations to alleged corruption networks tied to former Venezuelan officials.
Hundreds of thousands of commuters across New York are facing major travel disruption after workers on the Long Island Railroad launched the network's first strike in more than 3 decades, shutting down one of North America's busiest commuter rail systems. The walkout has now escalated into a political and economic standoff involving union leaders, transit authorities, and top government officials.
Operations on the Long Island Railroad were suspended shortly after midnight after thousands of unionized employees walked off the job following failed contract negotiations. 5 unions representing nearly half of the railroad's workforce are demanding higher wages and better health care terms amid rising living costs across New York and Long Island. Transit authorities say negotiations collapsed despite mediation efforts involving the administration of Donald Trump. Union leaders insist current salary proposals do not reflect inflation and worsen economic pressure on workers. The Metropolitan Transportation Authority accused labor representatives of pushing ahead with the strike despite what are described as substantial wage offers. Officials also warned that meeting union demands could trigger fare increases and complicate future negotiations with other transit employees. The shutdown is expected to affect roughly 250,000 daily passengers traveling between Manhattan and eastern suburb. Emergency shuttle services have been arranged, while roads leading into New York City are expected to experience severe congestion. New York Governor urged residents to work remotely where possible, while criticizing the handling of mediation efforts by the federal government. President Trump, however, rejected responsibility for the dispute and blamed state leadership as the strike intensified political tensions ahead of re-election campaign of the New York governor.
Gunmen killed 2 campaign associates linked to Colombian presidential candidate Abelardo de Espriella in the department of Meta, intensifying fears over political violence ahead of the country's May 31st presidential election. Authorities say attackers on motorcycles opened fire on the victims identified as former Cubaral Mayor Rogers Mauricio Devia Escobar and political advisor Eda Fabian Cardona Lopez. Colombia's Ombudsman Office warned that worsening insecurity could undermine democratic participation as candidates continue campaigning under heavy security protection. The attack comes amid growing concerns over organized crime, rebel activity, and rising political tensions in regions long affected by violence and cocaine trafficking. Brazil's presidential election is shaping into one of the country's most fiercely contested political battles in recent years, after a new opinion poll placed President Luiz Lula Inácio da Silva's level with conservative challenger Flavio Bolsonaro ahead of October's vote. The survey highlights growing political polarization as both camps intensify campaigns for control of Latin America's largest economy.
A new data Folha poll shows Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva tied with Senator Flavio Bolsonaro in a possible presidential runoff election. Both candidates received 45% support in the survey conducted among more than 2,000 voters. Lula, now seeking a fourth non-consecutive term, previously governed Brazil between 2003 and 2011 with policies focused on poverty reduction and social welfare programs. Flavio Bolsonaro has campaigned on preserving the political legacy of his father, former President Jair Bolsonaro, who is currently serving a prison sentence over allegations linked to an attempt coup after the 2022 election. The senator has repeatedly promised to seek his father's release if elected. The poll was conducted before new allegations emerged involving a proposed film project about Jair Bolsonaro's life. Reports by the Intercept Brazil alleged that Flavio Bolsonaro and his brother sought financial support for the production from banker Daniel Volcaro. Flavio Bolsonaro later confirmed efforts to secure private funding for the film, but denied any connection to allegations surrounding Volcaro's fraud investigation. The controversy now adds fresh pressure to an increasingly competitive race ahead of Brazil's October election.
Panic and confusion swept through the Italian city of Modena after a driver allegedly rammed into pedestrians near the city's historic cathedral district, injuring 8 people before attacking a passerby with a knife. Authorities say the suspect was eventually subdued by civilians as investigators probe the motive behind the attack. We have details.
Emergency crews flooded Via Emilia in Modena after a speeding vehicle mounted the pavement and struck multiple pedestrians near the city's cathedral district. The car eventually crashed into a shopfront. Witnesses say the suspect came out of the vehicle armed with a knife and attacked a passerby during an attempt to flee. Other civilians at the scene later overpowered him before police arrived. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni described the development as extremely serious as prosecutors opened investigations into the circumstances surrounding the incident. Local authorities say 5 women and 3 men were among those injured. Officials later disclosed that a 31-year-old suspect had previously been linked to mental health treatment for schizoid disorders before reportedly disappearing from care. Italian media reports indicate he had no previous criminal record.
Fresh Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon are raising new doubts over the durability of the Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire after 6 people, including paramedics, were killed during a bombardment on the town of Haruf. The attack came even as Washington announced a 45-day extension of the truce aimed at preventing a wider regional escalation.
Lebanese health authorities say an Israeli strike on a civil defense center in Aruf killed 6 people, including 3 paramedics, while another emergency worker was critically injured. The bombardment targeted southern Lebanon amid continuing tensions along the border. The Israeli military says 2 Hezbollah operatives were killed during the operation, insisting steps were taken to minimize civilian casualties. Lebanese officials, however, accused Israel of continuing attacks on civilian locations despite ongoing ceasefire negotiations. The developments came as the United States confirmed that Israel and Lebanon had agreed to extend the ceasefire for another 45 days following talks in Washington.
American officials said the extension is intended to create space for wider political and security negotiations. Israeli ambassador described the discussions as constructive, while Lebanon Prime Minister Nawaf Salam called for broader international backing ahead of further talks. Despite the ceasefire announced in April by Donald Trump, cross-border fighting has continued almost daily. The conflict has placed more than 1 million people across southern Lebanon, with Lebanese authorities reporting thousands killed since fighting escalated in March.
Latvian President Edgars Rinkēvičs has asked opposition leader Andris Kulbergs to form a new government following the resignation of Prime Minister Evika Silika after mounting criticism over security failures linked to Ukrainian drones entering Latvian territory from Russia. The political crisis intensified after one of the drones exploded at an oil storage facility in eastern Latvia, raising concerns over the country's air defense readiness. Silina's coalition later collapsed after a key partner withdrew support, leaving her government without a parliamentary majority. Kulbergs, who leads the United List Alliance, has been given 10 days to form a cabinet capable of securing parliamentary approval amid growing regional security concerns among NATO's Baltic states. Growing frustration over economic hardship and political repression is fueling fresh unrest in Tunisia as hundreds of demonstrators returned to the streets of the capital, demanding accountability from President Kais Saied's administration. Protesters accused the government of crushing dissent while living conditions continue to deteriorate across the country.
Hundreds of demonstrators gathered in Tunis under the slogan, "The people are hungry and prisons are full," to protest worsening economic conditions and the arrest of opposition figures, journalists and activists. Protesters accused President Kais Saied's government of silencing critics instead of addressing rising prices, shortages of medicines, and declining public services. Demonstrators also condemned what they described as increasing concentration of power following Saied's decision to dissolve parliament and assume broader executive authority in 2022. Rights groups argue that Tunisia's democratic progress since the 2011 uprising is being steadily eroded. The Tunisian president, however, has repeatedly defended his actions, insisting they are necessary to combat corruption and prevent political instability. Government officials have also denied accusations that opponents are being targeted for political reasons. Tensions are expected to intensify as professional groups prepare additional protests and strike actions over concerns surrounding judicial independence and restrictions on media freedom.
Pressure is mounting inside Britain's Labour Party after former Health Minister Wes Streeting openly declared his readiness to challenge Prime Minister Keir Starmer for the party leadership following Labour's disappointing local election performance. The development is deepening internal divisions as senior party figures debate Labour's future direction and relationship with Europe.
Former UK Health Minister Wes Streeting says he will contest any Labour Party leadership race that emerges in the coming months. Streeting made the declaration during a gathering of the Progress Group, a Labour faction known for supporting centrist reforms and party modernisation. His remarks came days after resigning from government and urging Prime Minister Keir Starmer to present a timetable for stepping down. The announcement follows Labour's heavy losses in recent local elections across Britain, increasing pressure on Starmer's leadership. During the conference, Streeting criticised Britain's exit from the European Union, describing Brexit as a major setback for the country's economy and global influence. He also called for closer ties with Europe and expressed hope that Britain could eventually return to the European Union. Despite growing criticism from sections of the party, Starmer has rejected calls to resign and insists he will remain in office. Under Labour Party rules, Any challenger seeking a formal leadership contest must first secure support from at least 20% of Labour lawmakers in Parliament.
Comoros has suspended controversial fuel price increases after violent protests and clashes with security forces left one person dead and several others injured on the island of Anjouan. The unrest spread across parts of the archipelago after rising diesel and petrol prices triggered anger over worsening living conditions and transport costs. Energy Minister Abubakar Said Anli said the government halted the measures to restore calm and allow consultations with citizens. Roads were blocked in the capital of Mutsamudu as demonstrators confronted security forces, while transport workers and traders launched strikes that disrupted activity in the capital, Moroni. Authorities say dozens of people were detained during the protests, while unions later suspended their strike after the government reversed the fuel price hikes. The Eurovision Song Contest has been thrown into controversy after mass protests and an unprecedented boycott over Israel's participation during the war in Gaza overshadowed this year's final in Vienna. The backlash triggered withdrawals from several countries and renewed accusations of political double standards against organizers.
Thousands of demonstrators gathered outside the Eurovision venue in Vienna as protests intensified over Israel's participation in this year's contest. Demonstrators accused organizers from the European Broadcasting Union of applying double standards by allowing Israel to compete while Russia remained suspended over the war in Ukraine. The controversy escalated after Spain, the Netherlands, Ireland, Iceland and Slovenia withdrew from the competition in what became the largest boycott in Eurovision's 70-year history. Some broadcasters in those countries also refused to air the final in protest. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez defended Spain's decision, describing it as a principled response to the conflict in Gaza. Human rights groups and more than 1,000 artists also backed calls for a wider boycott of the event. Amnesty International criticized Eurovision organizers for refusing to suspend Israel from the competition. Despite the protests and political pressure, the contest proceeded, with Bulgaria emerging as this year's winner after Austria hosted the event following last year's victory. Organizers also introduced new voting regulations after previous allegations that Israel influenced audience voting patterns during the competition.
Accused Rwandan genocide financier Felicien Kabuga has died in United Nations detention in The Hague at the age of 93 after years of legal proceedings linked to the 1994 Rwandan genocide. Kabuga had spent more than 2 decades evading arrest before he was captured in France in 2020 and transferred to the Netherlands to face genocide-related charges. Prosecutors accused him of financing extremist Hutu militias and using media platforms, including radio television, Libre de Mi Colline, to spread hate propaganda and incite ethnic killings during the genocide that claimed more than 800,000 lives. Judges later suspended proceedings after ruling that Kabuga was unfit to stand trial because of severe dementia and declining health. The UN court overseeing the case says an inquiry has now been opened into the circumstances surrounding his death. That's the world news on Kakaaki, the African voice. Stand by now because we have more reports for you on Kakaaki Business.
Welcome to Kakaaki Business. China and the United States have agreed to expand agricultural trade through tariff reductions and tackle non-tariff barriers and market access issues, China's Commerce Ministry said over the weekend. The agreements are preliminary and will be finalized as soon as possible, the ministry said following U.S. President Donald Trump's visit. China's farm import from the United States still face an additional 10% levy after last year's round of tit-for-tat tariff sharply curtailed trade.
which fell 65.7% year-on-year to $8.4 billion in 2025, according to U.S. Department of Agriculture data. The Commerce Ministry said both sides aim to promote two-way trade, including in agricultural products, through measures such as reciprocal tariff reductions across a range of goods. It did not specify which products. China resumed purchases of some U.S. farm goods after an October meeting, fulfilling the U.S. stated commitment to buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans by the end of February. It has also purchased some U.S. wheat cargoes and large volumes of sorghum. Market watchers expect a 10% cut in soybeans tariff, which could allow private Chinese crushers to resume purchases that were largely sidelined during last year's U.S. harvest, when state crop traders were the only buyers. Soaring diesel prices since the onset of the Iran war are draining already tight U.S. school district budgets, making it more expensive to bus students and run generators in a shock officials say they will not be able to afford for long. School districts in Yakima, Washington to Waco, Texas are tapping emergency funding reserves to keep buses running. In remote Alaska, officials are scrambling to secure enough fuel to keep the lights on. The stress reflects one of many knocks on impact of U.S.-Israeli war on Iran, which has disrupted the flow of around a fifth of the world's oil supplies. Since the war started in late February, fuel prices have posted one of their most rapid climbs on record. The spike has upended economies around the globe. It has caused enough pain in the U.S. to be a political liability for President Donald Trump ahead of November midterm elections, when his Republican Party is trying to maintain slim majorities in the U.S. Congress. U.S. school bus operators are major buyers of diesel, consuming more than 800 million gallons of diesel annually, according to the American School Bus Council. And U.S. factory production posted its largest increase in 14 months in April, driven by motor vehicles and demand for technology goods, amid an artificial intelligence spending boom. But supply disruptions from the war with Iran cast a shadow over the manufacturing sector. Those constraints were flagged by a survey from the New York Federal Reserve on Friday, showing delivery performance by suppliers in New York State deteriorated in May. The U.S.-Israeli conflict with Iran has disrupted shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, raising energy prices as well as straining global supply chains and causing shortages of a wide range of goods, including fertilizers, aluminium, and consumer products. French advertising group Publicis Group has agreed to acquire U.S. data collaboration company LiveStream for a total enterprise value of about $2.2 billion in an all-cash deal. Under the terms of agreement, Publicis will pay $38.50 per share for LiveStream, a 29.8% premium to the U.S. company's closing price on May 15. The last trading day before the announcement, the transaction represents a total equity value of $2.546 billion and includes acquired net cash of $379 million. The deal, unanimously approved by both companies' boards, is expected to be earning accretive from the first year of consolidation. Ahead of the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee meeting scheduled for May 19 and 20, 2026, Nigerians are increasingly expecting higher borrowing costs in the months ahead, even as the majority preferred interest rates to decline. This is according to the Central Bank of Nigeria's April 2026 Household Expectation Survey. The survey showed that 38.5% of respondents expect interest rates on bank loans to rise over the next 3 months, reflecting persistent concerns over tight monetary conditions and the high cost of credit. In contrast, 25.1% expected rates to remain unchanged, while 19.4% anticipated a fall in lending rates. Despite expectations of higher borrowing costs, most respondents said lower interest rates would be better for the economy. The report found that 60.9% of households preferred interest rates to fall, while only 12.9% supported higher rates. Another 23.8% favored leaving rates unchanged. On the trade-off between inflation control and cheaper credits, almost half of respondents, 50.8%, said they would rather see lower interest rates, even if it means higher inflation. By contrast, 44% preferred higher interest rates to help keep inflation under control. The findings highlight the growing pressure on households as Nigeria maintains a high interest rate environment aimed at curbing inflation and stabilizing the economy. The survey also indicates that while many Nigerians recognize the possibility of further rate hikes, there is stronger public sentiment for more affordable credit conditions to support consumption, investments, and household finances. The findings come as the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee is set to convene this week to decide on the country's next interest rate direction, with market and households closely watching for any signals on borrowing cost and inflation management. The Bureau of Public Procurement has introduced stricter controls on contract variation, barring ministries, departments, and agencies from processing any upward review of contract sums without first obtaining a certificate from the Bureau. The new guidelines announced on Sunday centralize the review of all contract variation, fluctuation claims, and scope modification under the authority of BPP. In a statement signed by its head of press and public relations, Zira Naga, the Bureau said the reform is aimed at blocking one of the major channels of cost inflation and corruption in Nigeria's public procurement system. Under the new framework, every request for a variation order or modification, regardless of value, must be submitted to the BPP for review and certification before it can proceed to the appropriate approving authority. The Bureau explained that a certificate of no objection, valid for 6 months, is now a mandatory requirement for any further action on contract reviews. The new policy replaces the 2013 guidelines, which only require presidential approval for contract variation above 15% of the original contract value or 1 billion naira. The agency said the measure is part of efforts to improve transparency, enforce fiscal discipline, and strengthen accountability in public procurement across government institutions. And that's Kakaaki Business.
In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the President.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m.
Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Kakaaki, the African Voice, this Monday morning. And my tag team partner is joining me now. Adora Sydney Jack is right here with me. Good morning. How was your weekend?
It was very well, Kunle. How are you? It was a rainy one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It also rained. Yeah.
Very cool evening into the night. Restful sleep. The temperatures dropping. And the atmosphere, of course, people were really troubled about the heat. I read something somebody posted online yesterday about this Abuja rain, that it's 60% wind and 20% rain.
And 2% rain.
And it's removing roofs from all over the place.
At least it got some respite regardless. I think that's what's best. Well, how poetic. Thank you for that interlude.
Well, the poetic license belongs to the guy who posted that thing online. No,
all right.
I
but
can't,
you expressed it.
Yeah, I can't I can't take ownership of it. Anyway, on Kakaaki, the African Voice, will bring you a social intervention segment, but don't forget, at 7 a.m., it will be time for the Newspaper Review. Stay with us.
And welcome to Get Fit in 60 Seconds with Dolly Phillips. Now, everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! Hey, hey, hey! Another interesting workout today is 180 jump squats. Ha! You're gonna have fun with this one. Are you ready? And your time starts now! Let's go! Hey! Hey, drop it low, like it's hot. Hey, hey, drop it low, like it's hot. Hey, come on. Don't stop. Now, if you can't jump, just turn. If you can't jump, just turn. But if you can, hey, have fun with this one. Love it. Make sure you're breathing. Don't ever hold your breath. 30 seconds left. Oh, I think it's 20 actually. Thank God. Come on. Slowly. Coming down to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and time. Super job. Well done! I hope you had a great workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye!
Hello, great people of Nigeria. Welcome to the Leadership Clinic. Today, I'll be speaking on building emotional intelligence as a leader. Every leader who can not manage emotions will always react rather than respond. I have seen a lot of leaders who occupy public positions, but they do not know how to manage their anger issues. They don't know how to manage the various humans that they work with. Your ability to work with very difficult people, your ability to work with people who are not reasonable, your ability to work with fools, your ability to work with very intelligent people, your ability to work with all manner of people depends on the quality of emotional intelligence that you have. The more emotional intelligence you have as a leader, the more respected you will be as a leader. So you'll be able to understand that there are certain personality that you have. Your makeup has to be understood by you. Your ability to be able to know your strength, your weaknesses, what makes you cry, what makes you go off the hook, what makes you really get out of your personality and behave in a way that is inconsistent with your person. Your ability to know what works with you is called emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is so great that leaders who have understood how to utilize their strength and their weaknesses, they have been able to avoid certain kinds of issues that would literally stop their leadership capacity to be able to make enough progress as it's supposed to be. So at every point in time, emotional intelligence tells you when somebody is angry around you, don't react, be assertive towards that individual. When somebody criticizes you, emotional intelligence tells you it's not a time for you to be able to actually fight back. It's a time for you to be able to look inward and see whether what that person is saying makes any sense at all. And then you'll be able to tap into that and then grow. Emotional intelligence tells you that you must learn how to understand the feelings of other people. people. You must learn how to understand how other people feel, the shoes other people are wearing. You must be able to wear those shoes as well, to be able to know how they feel. One of the most interesting things about emotional intelligence also is your ability to be able to empathize intentionally. Leadership is people first. So once you learn how to empathize with other people and you learn how to be able to ensure that you do things that are adding value to other people from the position of knowledge of those people, guess what? You begin to grow, you begin to expand, and you begin to grow in your influence and impact. Great people of Nigeria, you must remember, if a man doesn't have a purpose waking up, sleeping becomes interesting.
Have you ever wondered why your student has a crush on you? Most times, it is your fault as a teacher. If you pass unnecessary compliments on your student, such as you look sexy, gorgeous, beautiful, or hey, my small wife or my small husband. Dear teacher, if you say such words and much more to students of the opposite sex, please stop it, because the student can become emotionally distraught or imbalanced. The student unconsciously becomes attracted to you, which should not be. The student loses concentration in class and becomes self-conscious when you are nearby, and may become unhappy or become depressed when you're not in school, or when you even forget to pass such compliments. Inasmuch as you may think your student is beautiful or handsome, please do not pass such endearments. You may think it's harmless, but guess what? It is harmful to the psyche of the student. Your duty is to teach morals and your lesson notes. Please focus on your teaching deliverables and how to ensure that your students succeed in their studies. It will be honor to you to graduate an A-star student than an emotionally distraught student, consciously or unconsciously caused by you. Comments like, you're a brilliant student or intelligent student, keep up the good work, is just good enough to encourage and keep a healthy teacher-student relationship. So, if you know any teacher who passes suggestive endearment, tell them to stop the sweet nothings and keep it academic. Honestly, that's my 2 kobo.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. This month of May, the conversations that matter most are stepping.
People, politics, and power brings context and clarity to issues and events in governance, democracy, and development. On People, Politics, and Power, we feature people who shape the events and define the issues.
A lot of the agencies are still struggling with implementation of freedom of information.
The government should come. We need Nigeria to work.
We examine the interplay and interaction of politics with power and their impact on policies and the people.
It's about getting the system to deliver the kind of electoral outcome that people will be happy with.
People, Politics, and Power with Imoni Amarere.
Will low-performing agencies be held to account? Or will the numbers fade after the headlines?
At 1 p.m. every Monday and Friday on AIT.
Well, thank you for staying with us. It's now time for us to bring you our newspaper review this morning. We have two distinctive gentlemen in the studio with us. One virtually, well, in the studio somehow, and the other one here in real time. And let me say, it's good to have you always.
Thank you.
And what a smile. Absolutely. Well, Chris Wand will be joining us virtually later if he can make a run for it. But in the meantime, we'll begin in earnest. Stay with us.
All right. A very good morning to you, Lemmy. And we will join, or rather, Chris will join us later. But let's look at what the papers have for us this morning. It's a Monday of upsets, according to almost all the papers we have. This morning, we start with the Nigerian Pilot, which says, in its characteristic red headlines, upsets in APC. And the writers say, as heavyweights incumbents lose at House of Reps primaries, majority leader, others fail to secure tickets during APC primaries. And another headline there that you cannot but look at, Nigeria issues a fresh alert as Ebola outbreak hits DRC, Uganda. You'll find details of that story on page 6 of the paper.
All right, let's look at disclosure news this morning. Still talking politics and from APC primaries, governors take charge as 26 rep members lose return tickets. Benue, Imo, Jigawa lead list of non-returning lawmakers. Lagos, Rivers Assembly speakers win reps tickets. Party holds Senate primaries today, and that's on page 2. No Ebola case in Nigeria, NCDC declares 88 deaths, 336 suspected case reported as disease spreads across Africa. Again.
Okay, let's look at this Nigeria, and its own headline says, triumphs, shocks at APC primaries. Abbas or Basa Amaiwule scaled through as Ihonvere fails. Losers kick, cry foul. That's the top story on the front page of the paper this morning.
All right, let's look at Blueprint. I think Blueprint is also printing away in that they say you lose some, you win some. The APC reps primaries. Wike's allies, Buhari's son, Abbas Kalu win tickets. Majority leader Ihonvere loses. Ondo begs aggrieved aspirants. Kaduna aspirants seek review of exercise. Coalition wants irregularities addressed. At Pabio, Bamidele Brow get tickets ahead of Senate primaries.
The New Telegraph goes in the same direction. APC House of Reps primaries, mixed wins, confusion across states. And the writers say Reps Chief Whip Kumo unopposed. Incumbent lawmakers, Akume's wife, David Mark's daughter, return. Others lost out in Benue. Results declaration stalled in Ondo.
All right, let's look at Al Jazeera Nigeria this morning. I think it's going to be talking primaries a lot this morning, Kunle. 2027, Buhari's popularity reverberates as son Yusuf wins APC ticket for House of Representatives election. Abdusalami's son set for contest 27 years after father enthroned returned to democracy.
What an angle to look at. Okay, let's go to the leadership newspaper now. It says APC reps primaries. NWC stops state panels from announcing candidates. That's a different angle from which the paper is reporting it this morning. If you're interested in that headline, go to page 4 of the paper.
All right, and let's also look at the Daily Sun there. It says, that story just opposite the master. It says 2027, PDP camps clash over nomination of candidates. But the lead there really is 2028. APC faces revolt from trapped, disgruntled aspirants. Hundreds of aspirants decry imposition, deceit. And that's on page 8 of the Daily Sun.
The Observer's Times is the next paper we're looking at. It leads with the story, 2027, ex-governors, sitting governors, set to turn Senate into retirement home. And the writer says over 45% of senators face losing their seats ahead of general elections. And just below the masthead there, you will see that in that thin strip, House Majority Leader Ihonvere loses reps return ticket in Edo.
All right, Nigerian News Direct is looking still at the APC showdown there. It says Daniel Oyetola set for showdown ahead of APC senatorial primaries in Osun, Ogun State. And that's what you find as the lead story front page.
Abuja Inquirer is the next paper we're looking at, and it's also talking about the primaries, but how it is going in the FCT. APC heavyweights battle for lone FCT Senate slot. The riders say Aduda, Wowo, and Abdullahi in crunch race. Wike towers over contests. That's the top story on the front page of the Abuja Inquirer.
The Daily Newscraft tells us, forget 2027 presidential ambition, focus on nation building. Anglican Primate tells Jonathan, decries insecurity, hunger, poverty in Nigeria. Go on, Jonathan urges Christians to remain committed, and that's the lead story right there.
The Authority newspaper this morning also leads with a political story, but says nothing of the primaries of the APC. It leads with the story, coalition urges speedy resolution of suit on redundant parties. And the writers say false ZLP chairs alleged defamatory remarks on AGF wants Section 225 sub A of the Constitution protected. That story flows from the front page to page 2 of the paper.
All right, Standard Times is looking at these times as well. 2027 presidency, you are welcome to the race, Tinubu tells Makinde, and that's on the front page of the Standard Times newspaper.
2027, Nigeria's high-stakes political chessboard. That's the lead story on the front page of the Daily Global this morning. The Daily Global this morning leads with the story, 2027, Nigeria's high-stakes political chessboard. And of course, you'll find details of that in the inside pages of the paper.
And the Daily Asset is looking at Senate pushes state police bill after Borno Oyo school's abduction. E-police, a Motorcon launch, forest manhunters, forensic probe begins. A delegate directs immediate revitalization of Safe School initiative, and that's on page 2. APC primaries is still there. Shake-up reps, races in Benue, Nasarawa. And that's below that picture story.
Okay, let's go now to look at something from the world of business. And the Business Diary is the first paper we're going to in the world of business. Mint Naira sale at Owambe parties surges. That's the top story on the front page of the Business Diary. The writer says, as economists say, money spray sale dangerous for economy.
And still on business, the Business NG this morning looks at Nigerians' demand interest rate cut ahead of CBN MPC meeting, and that's coming from a survey. But 2027 found its way on the business story front page, says political parties begin fierce struggle for tickets, and that's what you also find on the front page of the Business NG story. Now, I'm sure that all the stories that we've seen here, I think they herald all the stories politically from the 2027, of course, ahead of the 2027 elections. Let's begin, let's look at what the Nigerian pilots, set the tone with. It says, upsets in APC as heavyweights incumbents lose at House of Rep primaries. Majority leader, others fail to secure return tickets during APC primaries, and, the list goes on.
Well, it's only to be expected. It's normal. For instance, the majority leader in the House of Rep, Professor Julius Inyovere, who did not get the ticket, for instance. That's an upset if you look at his status as the majority leader. However, I think the issue of rotation and zoning of that ticket, particularly in his own Onwa local government constituency, counted against him. Ordinarily, the people didn't expect that he would even get to aspire or even try to contest that ticket again, because it's an age-long practice of rotation to ensure that every side is well served. Then for others, definitely you will have those who have the blessings of the powers that be. You have those who do not have it. For instance, we have seen that the former president's son, for instance, has picked the ticket. That means he's about to displace the person who is occupying that position in the House of Representatives right now. And we all know clearly that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not only back him, in fact, from grapevine, because President Tinubu continuously and unashamedly declares his loyalty to his friend, and that's why political friend and partner, President Muhammadu Buhari, the late former president. He says, Buhari is me, I am Buhari. And so the son is enjoying that benefit. Besides that, no matter what you think of the reign of that former president, one thing is clear, that when it comes to Katsina, he still enjoys the goodwill, and it is the goodwill he had sown that Yusuf has benefited from to emerge. However, what is also of worry, and must worry Nigerians, is the place of internal democracy. Because I have listened to the hues and cries of various aspirants, those who were there before, who somehow have been edged out in the name of direct primaries. We are interpreting the provisions of the Constitution and the Electoral Act disingenuously. When they talk about consensus, that you could do it by way of consensus or go to the polls, go and contest. The consensus is that people who were interested in those positions, who had taken forms, will now at least write letters officially to say, we have considered this position, we are no longer going to run, and all that. But in many cases, we saw people who said, in fact, there was one, what's his name, Pastor Izeyamo, Osagi Izeyamo. He said, he even said my signature was impersonated, to show you how sad and bitter it was. His signature was allegedly forged, but he did not say he was impersonating his signature. So these are the things that happen where internal democracy is in trouble in Nigeria, and it is not exclusive to APC. We are seeing it happen here and there. Once they say you are the favored candidate, we just see that you are either bullied to take it. Desmond Elliott is suffering his own in Lagos, as it were. A lot of bullying, is crying out and all. So we predicted that for APC, with the number of people going in, you know, to meet those who had prepared and worked in the parties at all levels, local government, state level, federal level, those who had worked so hard and were waiting for 2027 for rewards by going to the polls. You now bring in big wigs, governors, senators, all sorts of people into the system. How do you balance the equation? Because people who have worked hard will definitely be disgruntled. So it did not need us to be Nostradamuses for us to predict that there was inevitably going to be an implosion. And that is coming to bear. But like one paper put it, he said APC members trapped because the Electoral Act was also amended to say, look, first of all, give us your list of membership of a party. 2, you cannot even leave. So you are either going to stay where you are, disgruntled, and play the role of a spoiler by going to give support to opposition parties now. So, but legally, lawfully, they have been trapped in whatever party they find themselves. There's nothing they can do other than help from behind.
But what is the danger of this, Lemmy, going into the 2027?
Yes, the danger of it is that if we cannot have internal democracy in parties, if the selection process for candidates who will fly the flags of parties at the general elections, if the selection process is flawed, if it is about people determining who becomes, a few people determining who becomes, as against constituents, against members of their parties, then it simply means that we are shortchanging democracy in the final outcome. Because if they were not popular in their parties enough to pick the tickets, but because the powers that be decided that, it simply means that they are not the best of candidates, but they have emerged because they are the best or most loyal to these people. And the quality of what we will now produce as leaders going forward at the general election definitely will be a problem to us. And if you don't have internal democracy in political parties, we cannot give democracy to the nation at large.
Okay, let's look at another issue now. Let's go to the front page of the Daily Newscraft. And that headline there, Lemmy, is quite interesting. Forget 2027 presidential ambition, focus on nation building. Anglican primate tells Jonathan.
Well, you know, from last year when all of these
hold that thought a minute. Just hold that thought.
Okay.
I understand that CKN is joining us now. Chris, good morning.
Sorry, guys, no audio. I can't hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. All right, please.
No wonder there's no smile on his face yet. All right, while we work on the audio, let's just get back to what we're talking about.
So,
Lenny.
From last year, when all of this thing about Jonathan Run, I said clearly, why do we want to pull this global citizen, bring him into trouble? What is left? He's done his bit. He's done his bit. I think it was last week, my back page column in this Nigeria, I said Jonathan flee from the temptation of 2027. It's tempting. The North that was strongly against him in 2015 is major people who are calling for him to come now because, of course, they want to guarantee the tenure that he cannot do more than 4 years. They do not believe that Mr. Peter Obi, who says he will do just 4 years, in cognizance of the arrangement that power should shift, after 8 years to the other side. So Jonathan is constitutionally encumbered not to go beyond 4 years, and so they are luring him, not because of love for Jonathan, but because of their own regional
Not even because of what they think that
certainly is the
former President Jonathan can do.
It's the politics, because they do not expect, for instance, if there's an upset against the APC, the presidential election, and Obi takes it, they do not believe that he will taste honey for 4 years and want to drop honey after 4 years. That's clearly it. But Jonathan has done his bit. Today, Jonathan is an elder statesman. He's a global citizen, respected globally, not just in Africa. There's nothing to add other than continue to play the father figure, continue to play that role, give advisory to government where you have access to give advisory, where you have to criticize government in good faith. Do that, but play the role. Do not bother succumbing to the temptation of 2027. I think it's really needless. We are over 200 million Nigerians. When Nelson Madiba Mandela became president, they wanted him to do another term. And he says, no, he's not going to do. And they say, no, you are the only one. He said, if South Africa will not survive without me, then let it collapse, because I have raised successors. I have raised enough. So we should talk about, as leaders come, we should be intentional about building shades, about building shelter under whose tree. We should build shelter under which we know as leaders we will not stay in, we will not live in, but we will leave it for posterity so that others can come in and take it. Jonathan has done his bit. It's needless, and I agree with the primate for also calling him. And I do think, really, that no matter what, Jonathan and Tinubu are friends. And he's not that kind of a guy who has that kind of bone to want to go against an establishment. He will not, even if you beg him from now till tomorrow. He was just being polite to the people who came the last time to visit him and to ask him to run, that he will reach out. But his body language, and even if you look at the semantics of what he says, running for presidency is not computer game. That means it's not PlayStation. It's reality.
All right, so let's look at another paper and another headline. There's still political.
Let's see if we can hear Chris now first. Chris, are you there? Can you hear us now?
Hello, Chris. Can you
hear us, Chris?
anything of our voice?
No, obviously, Chris cannot hear us this morning, so go ahead, Ada.
So we're still looking political. I mean, and this time I'm looking at the Senate. APC governors, predecessors, and tight Senate primary contest today. Leadership brought that to us. Somebody said that the Senate has now become a retirement plan for ex-governors and those who are going from...
That's the Observer's Times.
Observer's Times and leadership also.
Yes, unfortunately, and that is why you have a lot of retrogression in the Senate. They are dropping the ball every session. This is the 11th Senate? Yes, this is the 11th Senate.
It will be the 11th Senate by the time they get...
Lawa was 9th.
This is the 10th Parliament.
No, this is the 10th
Okay,
Senate.
this is the 10th.
Yes, this is the 10th Parliament.
Lawa was, Ahmed Lawa was 9th Senate, where he was Senate President. Now you see that from the Abubakar Saraki's time to this time, they've, progressively dropped the ball. It's getting worse. We said the Ahmed Lawa 9th Senate was rubber stamp, was this, was that. There was nothing we didn't say. But we found the Akpabio own to even have taken it to the apogee of incompetence, of insensitivity to the Nigerian people. And that's what we have. Most of them, former governors. If we have good recruitment system and institutions are strengthened, there is no way those former governors with the poor performances from their state would even have emerged even as local government chairmen or local government councillors. But because we have a system where we can just, the system is skewed to actually allow money bags, people who've made so much money from governance, to just move to their retirement home, which unfortunately is the Senate. Most of them are not active. Most of them do not even contribute, no bills. They do not sponsor bills. They just come. A lot of them, when the cameras catch them, you'll be embarrassed at what they are doing. Many of them do not. They don't even read the processes that come to them. And I say this with due respect. Senator Adams Oshomole even said that last week during a television interview, that many of them do not even read the motions that they come to support eventually. So that's how it is, unfortunately, and it is because we have built strong persons, we have not built strong institutions where you can have the people's votes count, even from the primaries, and that's what we have, and that's why a governor will go and bully. In fact, in one of the states during this primary, while the people were waiting, governor and his people declared the outcome of the election results. So that's why we're not really making progress, because people who could not do anything in their states now go to the federal level and occupy the Senate position. It is sad. Unfortunately, we are in the politics of settlement. Okay, these people backed me in my time, so let us give them the tickets. These people backed me, let us support them. In Ogun State, the governor wants to go and replace a former governor, Benga Daniel. And Benga Daniel himself, yesterday on TV, said he was pulling out of the race because there is information that during the primaries, they want to attack his own supporters and there will be mayhem. He wants to avoid it. I saw that on TV. We are in trouble. This is not the democracy we envision. The Nigerian-style democracy, it's very depressing and ultimately really does not allow the will of the people to prevail.
Okay, let's bring in some of our viewers here now. I'm sure if you take a look at the YouTube channel, you see the comments are pouring in torrents, and I'm going to read the first one from Raymond Asemota. He says, the devil is at play in APC. Aramide Kennedy says, politics and Game of Thrones. And for Ebony Francis, he says, I always know APC implosion will be very fatal. I foresee plenty anti-party activities with APC members. Anselm says, good for the APC reps. They are the ones who signed the electoral bill. Let them enjoy what they signed. You have some of them there?
I think that, but short of saying that they're not complimentary, I think let's start with that first, Lemmy. How do you respond to this?
Well, the voice of the people is the voice of God. The people have observed it. They were really hoping, I was hoping that my, it's not prophecy, because even a student in secondary school who is studying government or civic education will easily expect this. So we shouldn't even pat ourselves on the back for seeing this. It's inevitable, and it's going to get worse as they do the Senate today, as they go with governorship. We already know states where the ticket for governorship will also be a major issue. So it's inevitable.
All right, let's see another. I think maybe I need to take this. It says Jonathan has the exclusive right to contest in next year's presidential poll, therefore he should be left alone. And somebody said, well, Jonathan was in Aso Rock for 6 years and nothing to point to in the whole southern Nigeria, not even small Bayelsa. He should enjoy his statesmanship for being peaceful. Then somebody says, Lemmy, there's nothing needless here. Jonathan can run if he wants to. It is his choice, and not because of your analysis.
Who said he cannot run? But we know that he will not run. So let sentimental people do sentiments, while our role is to analyze it as we know best. Absolutely. Jonathan will not run. I put my money on it.
Okay. You have not told us
how
much
money. Not let somebody
money.
say how much.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I was going to ask him how much money.
If you want to wage it, I'm ready.
I'm not going to go on a wager with you. Let's look at another headline before we go, because we have just a few minutes left. And the Business Diary is where I'm going this morning. Mint Naira sale at Owambe parties surge.
No, yes.
Okay. What?
I think there's a story on the Coalition Authority newspaper.
Okay, the Authority newspaper Coalition urges speedy resolution of suit on redundant parties. Let's look at that quickly first.
Okay, I followed this story very closely. Followed it because I saw the Zenith Labour Party chairman, Dan Wanyanwu, and the way he's been doing a lot of fighting. He's among the parties that were dragged to He's among the persons that were actually the parties that were dragged to court by Association of Former Lawmakers, Incorporated Trustees of Former Lawmakers. They went to court, they dragged INEC to court, and of course joined the Attorney General and 5 parties, including the Zenith Labour Party, saying that they did not meet constitutional threshold in the last election. And having not met constitutional thresholds, such as, 1, if you are a party, you are expected to get 25% of votes in presidential election in one state, at least one state. That in 36 states, we expect that all parties that are political parties should get at least 25% in one state. We expect that they should get a representation, win elections in the National Assembly, Senate, House of Rep, and even at the state houses of assembly. But unfortunately, the Attorney General was joined in the suit. And being the chief law officer of the country, he's not one who should pander to sentiment. So he decided that he was going to file, as he understood it, these provisions support the suit that says deregister parties that are not active, parties that are redundant. And these parties in question seem to have been caught by those constitutional provisions because they didn't meet up. But what did the Zenith Labour Party, that Wanya, would decide to do? Instead of going to file a defense in court, getting his lawyers to file a defense, he's been riding roughshod everywhere because of freedom of speech, and even accused the Attorney General, who was made a party in the suit, who was made a defendant, that is the one who cooked it up in his office. Defamatory statements that you shouldn't ordinarily make. You only make
without
such
evidence,
statements, especially at that level, when you have evidence, compelling evidence. But he decided to spew all of that, leaving the real issue. Did Zenith Labour Party get 25% in any state in presidential election, just like those other parties that were named? No. Did it get representation at the National Assembly, Senate, and House of Rep? No. But he decided to say we got local government councillorship about 17. No. The Constitution cannot be a decorative ornament. And that's why I agree with the coalition that issued this statement that is the result of this lead story. The Constitution is clear. And where the Constitution uses the word shall, it is mandatory, it is not optional. And you and I know that last elections, we were even fed up with when they are announcing results of election, they will have to read 20-something parties. And these parties will not get 1 or 2 votes. For a matter as serious as elections, as contests. So most citizens are tired of having over 20-something parties, on the ballot, because all they are doing, many of them are just political jobbers who get subvention from INEC. So long as you survive, election period now, they get funding from INEC. This is part of why we sustain, administrative budgets, expenditure that are avoidable. So I really do think that instead of people spewing all sorts of rhetoric, the Attorney General has played his role as the chief law officer to respond as a defendant, to say, yes, if you did not meet this threshold, the Constitution is clear. And we expect that the only way you can respond is to go to court and file your own responses. The court will look at it dispassionately, but let's be serious. This idea that we'll politicize everything and look at how to weaponize the sentiments of the Nigerian people. When the Constitution is the grand norm, if the Constitution has spoken, even a court does not have the authority to vary a constitutional provision that has been made mandatory. And that is what we should do. And citizens should, yes, I like that citizens are passionate. Despite how difficult things are, our people are still concerned about the going-ons, the politics and all. But they must also
some of them say we should even focus more on the issues.
They must also be enlightened. They must also seek a bit of, enlightenment. The Constitution is available not just in hard copy. You can Google it. So Section 225A of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic as amended is unequivocal in the conditions precedent for INEC to deregister a party that has not met the threshold. It's important to read so that when people come and weaponize sentiments and blackmail those who are doing the real work of defending the Constitution, it's important we're able to know, read through it, sift from the shaft, get the wheat, and deal with it dispassionately. That is how we get a country moving, because we must not be a country that panders to just sentiments as against the rule of law.
So you're saying that, the Dan Wanyan ZLP faction is speaking out of the law, without guidance from the law?
Yes, without guidance.
And so what law are you precipitating this on?
Yes, Section 225 of the 1999 Constitution as amended is unequivocal in saying that if you are a political party, if you are part of the presidential election and you did not get 25% in 1 out of 36 states of the federation, he didn't say get 25 in all states. So let's be serious. If your child came back with a result that in 36 papers, he did not get 25% in 1, are we going to be talking? We'll be thinking of what else that child can do. So let's parties that are not serious, that will make us be waiting for INEC people to read returning officer, party this, party that, and read till 22. If we are dispassionate, we will know that it makes sense. And the Constitution is not a decorative ornament, especially where it makes a mandatory use of the word shall. Once it does that, nobody can vary it at all. It is when it uses the word may, then you are at liberty to use discretion, you are at liberty to use your own understanding, just like the discretion expressed in football where they say one is ball to hand, one is handball. You know, that is the way it is. When the Constitution says may, you can do that. But when it says shall, it's imperative. Imperative, it is mandatory, because the Constitution is not a decorative ornament.
All right, quickly one, just maybe this is a comic interlude for Chris. The camera is afraid of Chris' cap. That is why he's having problem connecting. So that's Raymond Asemota saying that. And there's one for you to say is, Dr. Lemmy without a cap today, a new look. So this is battle of the caps.
I wasn't with a cap yesterday, last Monday.
Maybe he loves you in caps, please.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Raymond Asemota, but unfortunately it was audio problems.
Absolutely, it was not a cap.
He couldn't hear us, rather. We could hear him. Maybe it was the cap that was seizing the audio. Okay, let's quickly look at one more story before we go. That one I brought up earlier on the front page of the Business Diary. Mint Naira sales at Owambe parties surges. And I'd like to get your take on that, because there's a law against the sale of the Naira note. There's also a law against spraying at parties. So how do you read this?
You know, it's a matter of enforcement. It's the problem of enforcement. You know, the enforcement was done in a frenzy at some point. Everywhere you just see they've caught this one, EFCC has gotten this one. There's a lot of issues. But after a while, they drop the ball again. It's a matter of enforcement. And again, public enlightenment, because this is something that we should, EFCC, National Orientation Agency, this is something they should continually drum in our ears. We have formed bad habits, you know, over the years growing up.
No, actually, it's a culture.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If you take a look at it, it's a culture.
No, that's what I'm saying.
That's history, right?
But that's what I'm saying.
It's a historical
thing.
Yeah,
that's why I say
it will take a lot of work.
That's what I'm saying. We formed a bad habit of it. It's a culture, but it's a bad habit.
So Justin, ZLP representative just sent in a word. He said, we are in court. Local government and councillors are part of the threshold. And, well, you're talking about, yes, part of the threshold. But still, he says, you're talking about funding by INEC that was stopped over 20 years ago. Please read the law, and at least the threshold is a councillor shall get 25% or, and so that's the feedback.
There's a lot of discussion being done. Clearly, you cannot interpret the Constitution in parts. What's it called? The provision of the Electoral Act is very clear, 225. You will get all of that in addition to whatever you get in, and he has admitted it by saying it's part. It's part. That means it's not whole of the condition. It's part of the condition. Other conditions, in fact, it starts from up and is graded down, which is 1, you must get 25% or in a state for National Assembly and for presidency. Then you will win some seats in the National Assembly, Senate, and House of Rep. Then you go down, then go to councillorship. But councillorship is an addendum. The real fundamentals, and that is why we say they are reading it to suit where they have met their own, which is 17 councillorship. But what happens? Are they a state party, or are they a national party captured by INEC? So if perhaps they are just restricted as a state party in Ebonyi or in Jigawa, then we can understand the argument. But you do not participate in the general election, then choose that the only exam that will be marked for you is the one you wrote on councillorship. No, it beats logic. It stands logic on its head. And indeed, it tells you that they are really not ready for the real serious business of political party administration, because you cannot be in serious business and not be able to find 25% in one state in presidential election.
All right, I think that's a great place to draw the curtain, and we apologize to Chris for that audio mishap, but definitely we'll get your thoughts in, and I'm sure we'll follow you on social media as well, and do have yourself a lovely day. Dr. Lemi, it's great to have you always.
Thank you very much, Lemi. So stay with us, we'll take a break, we'll come back and begin with our first conversation on Kakaaki, the African Voice.
Political discourse. This month of May, the conversations that matter most are stepping.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on EIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash.
Cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. In today's global economy, information is everywhere, but insight is rare.
Because of the high rate of fuel, the cost of commodities, cost of everything in this country is high.
This is unacceptable because Nigerians cannot be made to suffer every time.
So, where do you turn for clarity? The right questions.
What is the need for Nigerians? Let's really break it down. Income strata-wise, revenue strata-wise for companies. What are some of the inhibitions that are not making trade work for all?
The real answers.
Stimulus package must take a different shape beyond what we have seen in sharing of rice, sharing of money.
Nancy brings it to you on Moneyline with Nancy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Moneyline with Nancy.
Clear, well-researched conversations focused on what truly impacts you.
Is it that we don't know the number of MSMEs we have in the country, or we don't know where they are?
I don't think we can identify 40-something million MSMEs as a people and as a country.
Nigeria has the policy framework in place to be a leader on this approach. You can make farmers bankable.
Moneyline with Nancy now airs 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Weekdays, live on AIT and online. If it matters to the economy, join us.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. We're going into our first conversation this morning, and of course we did tell you that we'll be talking about the ramifications of the killing of ISIS leader al-Manuki at the beginning of the program. And we have joining us retired Colonel Leo Abara, who is a security strategist. He's joining us this morning to take a look at what the implications are of the latest exploits of the Nigerian military in collaboration with the U.S. At the weekend. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, Colonel. Okay, let's start by looking at who Abu Bilal al-Manuki was, because the story, the news of his killing made big headlines, and it was described as a real coup, being the most wanted terrorist. And for very many people who have never heard of his name, who was he?
From what we can gather about
their nationals are getting involved and getting higher ranked in global terrorism. Don't forget what ISIS stands for. The objective of ISIS is to establish an Islamic caliphate and replace the Westphalian system. And that is an affront for the international system. They tried it in the Middle East, it was crushed. So the implication is far-reaching. So the Nigerian state should be able to take this thing very, very seriously. And that is why the Trump administration's social media pronouncement says, at my direction. That shows ownership. That shows authority, and that shows clarification. The Nigerian state had earlier pronounced this mandate in 2024. And today, the United States are clarifying it, that this man is not dead, we have just killed him. ISIS, their objectives and antecedents should be frightening based on what they did in the Middle East, especially in Mosul. They gathered the soldiers, killed them. There were mass executions, and al-Baghdadi was parading himself as the new caliph. And that is what they're bringing into Africa. Already they have a province of the West Africa. And that is not diverse from what is happening in Mali. You can see how 12,000 terrorists were so equipped and organized to attack the Malian state. So the implications are too many. A Nigerian state should not divorce or forget what happened in Mali. It is possible that it can be replicated in Nigeria.
Okay.
So that is my fear, yeah.
All right, let's look at, President Trump, Secretary of State, and other top officials are celebrating the killing, probably even more than the Nigerian government, who also said that it was a successful joint operation. But who is the bigger beneficiary of all of this?
Well, the Nigerian state should have been the beneficiary of this. Because when violent nation actors take over this country, they will destroy everything, and including those that are supporting them today. And again, the United States have just proven the authority they have. They are speaking authoritatively from the Nigerian sovereignty. That means a lot. They have just clarified to the whole world that what the Nigerian government did in 2024, declaring him dead, is not true. That's clarification. So I think the Nigerian state should be very careful of how the world is now looking at them. Because their nationals have become involved in global terrorism, no longer a domestic issue. It is now a global issue. And it is wrong for Nigeria to be labeled, or their nationals to be labeled as helping international terrorism. That has averted the United States of America and will make them stay in Nigeria for a long time until they are sure that Nigerian nationals can no longer aid international terrorism.
Okay.
So I think we are the losers.
All right, Colonel, security experts like you have said that the killing of Abu Bilal al-Manuki could be a major setback for the operations of ISIS in West Africa. And of course, Nigeria is a major player in the West African sub-region. Defense headquarters here, they've told us that this operation was carried out solely by Nigerian troops with the support of U.S. surveillance and intelligence. Now, first, let's look at the impact of this on ISIS operations in West Africa and globally, and of course, what this means for Nigeria's military. Because you just said a few minutes ago that claim in 2024 that al-Manuki had been killed has now been proven false. So how important is this for renewed, or should I say intensified, intelligence gathering by Nigeria's military?
Yeah, I don't want to go into what happened in 2024. The killing of this guy may not set the ISIS operation back so much, because from antecedents and from history, we have seen that Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Boko Haram have lost their leaders, but are still standing and are still promoting this terrorism. I project that what will happen is that they may appoint another leader and continue with the objectives. And Nigerian state should expect a retaliatory attack or a fragmentation of the ISIS into smaller units. There could be intensification of attacks to prove that they are still alive, even after killing their leader. That means there may be more attacks in Nigeria, in different parts of Nigeria. Again, the sympathizers of ISIS will be angry with the presence of the United States of America in Nigeria because it's disrupting their objectives. So we should look at West Africa and look at what happened in Mali. It can be replicated in Nigeria. Why not? Because the conditions in Nigeria will promote that. You can see ungoverned spaces, open borders, and arms and ammunition that are flowing everywhere. And the Nigerian military are stretched thin. So let us not rejoice so much about what had just happened about the killing of this guy. Well, we should anticipate that there may be more attacks and fragmentations. So Nigerian state should be ready for more attacks and more disturbances.
All right, so let me start by the fact that a number of watchers of the situation are not very comfortable with the involvement of the U.S. in Nigeria's war. I mean, we've heard this over and over again, and you've also seen the rhetorics around it. What is the need for the United States? Why are they doing this at this moment? Why did they let the war fester to this point before joining in? And, you know, with the, of course, understanding of Trump's approach to America first for all of his intervention, how do you look at this narrative?
Yeah, United States have taken it upon themselves to go after global terrorism. Remember when ISIS was running amok in the Middle East? It was the United States of America that eliminated al-Baghdadi and set back the operations of ISIS in the Middle East. Now that ISIS have moved into West Africa and then Africa proper, United States is here again to hunt them down. For Nigerian state to allow ISIS to be resident in their state has invited the United States of America. And what they just did now was to kill their leader like the way they killed al-Baghdadi. So it's going to take a long time for the United States of America to leave Nigeria. If Nigeria does not want the United States of America to be here, what they should do is to take care of their borders and ensure that there are no terrorists in Nigeria. But now that you have allowed that, you have invited the United States of America to take action. they will be here until they are satisfied by themselves that ISIS is no longer here and that Nigeria can no longer project terrorism. It's not their fault. It's Nigeria's inability to secure its borders that is invited the United States of America. We should be a sovereign state that takes care of our borders. If you do that, no other nation should come here and establish military base.
Colonel, so let's take a look at one more issue here. What should and what do you think the Nigerian military could do on its own to take the fight to the terrorists? Because you talked about making sure that the terrorists, ISIS, does not have a stronghold in Nigeria anymore, that terrorists can no longer have a foothold in the country. But we've seen this fight against insurgency since 2009. What new dimension do you think the Nigerian military could take or embark upon to ensure that that goal is achieved?
Well, I don't know what the Nigerian military can do again, because from 2009 up to now, they have not been able to defeat terrorism. Now that they are having a partnership with the United States of America, we hope that something good will happen. But insecurity is not a military issue. It is a governance issue. We have to be frank about it. These violent non-state actors come up because of the absence of governance in some areas of Nigeria. So when you see that the government is no longer there, you know, the nature of, does not allow vacuum. So these violent non-state actors will come up and occupy such spaces. And these are the places we call ungoverned spaces. So when they are there, they will now establish their own government. And that's what happened in Nigeria. So we don't need politicians to run this country. We need statesmen to run this country. Because by the time you exclude a particular part of the country, it becomes ungoverned space, which is a fertile ground for groups like ISIS to grow and take over. So we need statesmen to govern Nigeria, not politicians, because the politicians work in the logic of 4 years. Then they now prepare for the next election.
Okay.
And it happens within a small group of people. We're talking about the whole Nigerians should be involved in governance. Give them the amenities and then project your powers within the territory of Nigeria.
Okay.
You deny them of ungoverned spaces.
Okay. Colonel, we thank you very much. It's a good place to leave it this morning. Oh, sorry, I think we made you talk too much. Sorry about that. I hope you're okay now.
But he said a
Great.
nice good thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Colonel, for sharing your time with us and your analysis with us this morning. We've been speaking with retired Colonel Leo Abara, talking about the ramifications of the killing of the ISIS leader al-Manuki this morning on Kakaaki, the African Voice. Thank you once again, and we do hope you have a nice day.
All right, so it's time of the hour where we go for Kakaaki Socials right up. But now is that time where we bring in Brenna Obozage to stay with us.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
People, politics, and power brings context and clarity to issues and events in governance, democracy, and development. On People, Politics, and Power, we feature people who shape the events and define the issues.
A lot of the agencies are still struggling with implementation of freedom of information.
The government should come. We need Nigeria to work.
We examine the interplay and interaction of politics with power and their impact on policies and the people.
It's about getting the system to deliver the kind of electoral outcome that people will be happy with.
People, Politics, and Power with Imoni Amarere.
Will low-performing agencies be held to account? Or will the numbers fade after the headlines?
At 1 p.m. every Monday and Friday on AIT.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is Kakaaki Social. I am Onoshorena Obozege, and I hope that you had a good weekend. Welcome to Monday. All right, let's see what's on the space of social media. Across several APC primaries held ahead of the 2027 elections, allegations of manipulations, intimidation, and inflated count of vote trailed the exercises in different states, sparking protests among party members and aspirants. Locations this happened have aggrieved members, accused party leaders of disrupting the process and manipulating outcomes in favor of preferred candidate. Let's see how some of the votes were counted this weekend.
200, 201, 203, 204, 205, 206, 219, 300, 301, 302, 303, 304, 9, 10, 100, 101, 102, 103, 200, 308, 300, 904, 1,000, 1,500.
All right, interesting numbers there. It seems like board mass is not a thing anymore. Let's see what you say in reaction. Harmless Arrow says, this is madness. The people standing on the queue allowed it. I know some of them may be unenlightened, but majority there are. Why didn't they raise their voice? I know he must be scared, but when he wanted to jump from 55 to 100, as he did, and faced no challenge, he continued. In another reaction, Man Like Me says, many lawmakers who rode on Peter Obi's Labour Party wave in 2023 and quickly decamped to APC have lost their primaries. They thought APC would welcome them as true sons. APC showed them they are outsiders. In another thought too, Maurice Moye says, Delta State politics is so brutal. A sitting House of Reps member could not locate venue of primaries. It was after they had finished voting and announced winner that he knew the location of primaries. Interesting. Same thing they did to Pat Utomi in Delta State when he wanted to run for governor. More thought to this too. Coming from X, CISO says, did anyone notice National Assembly created a bill to trap Peter Obi in ADC? Instead, the bill backfired badly and led to the largest retirement of politicians in Nigerian history. Many of them lost their primaries yesterday, and their new bill restricts them from decamping to another party to contest. It's funny to Cecil, and he's laughing. One more thought to this one. Olusegun says, National Assembly member didn't know they are signing an electoral act that will put them in trouble for Tinubu. And many people are already saying that they see the amendments to this new amendment in no time, because they didn't see this one coming. But still talking politics, away from primaries now, ahead of the APC state houses of assembly primaries, Surulere one lawmaker and Nollywood actor Desmond Elliott has raised the alarm over alleged intimidation and the withdrawal of his security details. Elliott, in a video he shared on his socials, appealed to President Bola Tinubu to intervene, claiming he was being politically targeted as tensions continued to trail the party's primaries in Lagos State.
Intimidation, coercion, and twisting, and forcing people to follow their own candidate is what is existing today in Surulere. Telling them that they will not be beneficiaries of some empowerment that is coming some other time. Please, this is not done, should not be done. We are all members of the same party. We've been intimidated so much so that a lot of people from the local government are being fired because they follow me. That should not be allowed. It is bad enough that the LGA at the local government already took a side months ago. The local government already took a side to support a particular aspirant. I didn't say anything, but they were shocked to have seen the quantum number of people and supporters that we've had and have followed us because they believe in justice and they believe in fair play. More so, my security personnel was taken away from me yesterday for reasons best known to, I don't know.
All right, let's see what you make of this. I'm reacting to the shirt he's wearing. In case you did not see it, that is President Bola Tinubu topping the chart there. And pictures, two pictures, different of Femi Gbajabiamila. He has that one there, and then another right there, but same picture, of same person rather. Emmanuel is laughing out loud. He says, I haven't seen this amount of delusion in one person before. The person fighting you is not hidden. He has come out on media to state his stance on you. Instead, you are putting a t-shirt with his pictures on it, failed to call out his name, instead attacking local government members that are just following his instructions. Are you this daft or cowardly? Why not call him out? Emmanuel says. In another reaction, Kaya says, I like what he's doing. He's probably suspecting that Baja is the one pulling the strings and reaching out directly to the president. Come to think of it, why would Tinubu be concerned about Lagos State House of Assembly? He has bigger things to worry about. Desmond must have really pissed off Baja. Okay. Tosin Olugbenga says, if the party leadership doesn't want you, there is nothing you can do to win. Just go home with peace and look for a job to sustain your lifestyle. Call my sis, Toyin Abraham. She will fix you up in a role in her next movie. Your time is up, Tosin says. And Nefertiti First Ladyship says, Desmond Elliott is an actor. Once an actor, always an actor. He mocked the victims of NSAS. He remained silent because he was a beneficiary of the corrupt system. Now he wants to go against the system that fed him. APC is rigging APC. Let the best rigger win. O'Shea Nefertiti says right there. To other stories. The Defense Headquarters, DHQ, has clarified report surrounding the identity of a terrorist, Abu Bilal al-Minuki, killed in a joint operation involving the Nigerian military and United States forces. According to the military, the individual neutralized in 2024 operation is not Mr. Mainuk, as earlier speculated, noted that confusion arose due to similarities in names and aliases commonly used within insurgent networks in the Lake Chad Basin. The DHQ explained that such overlaps in identities are frequent among ISWAP and Boko Haram elements, who often adopt multiple names and across the Northeast theater of operation. And that's because report had said in 2024, this win you are reporting was also recorded in 2024. And we do know that Donald Trump, the US president, was quick to break the news. Also, that brave US military did that work. So we had stories like this, for example, Look at how Human Angle puts their own story. It says, Abu Bilal al-Muniki, the terrorist who died twice. So stories like this went viral, and that was why they provided that the identity, and they are quick to use similar names in their camp. Let's now see how you reacted to this story and clarification. We cross over to X now. Oh, Facebook. This user, Ibrahim, says, I think terrorists also have identity cards because I always wonder how they know the name and rank of terrorists killed. Just wondering. Amobi Bright says, identical names with identical faces, not too much. Amobi Bright says, still on Facebook, Usman says, it's a nickname thing, so it's not surprising for them to name another person same name. All right, now to X at this point. Ishak says, funny how some foreign powers suddenly become concerned once there is a headline to exploit. Nigeria proved again we can handle our security ourselves. What we don't need is outsiders acting desperate to plant boots on our soil while ignoring the chaos in their own backyard. Massive respect to the Nigerian Armed Forces for a job well done. The successful elimination of Abu Bilal al-Muniki proves that our military is capable indeed. But finally, Nkechi Unaji says, I will leave America President Trump and believe Nigerian army that is king of Lamba. She's laughing out loud right there. For you to know what Lamba is, in case you have to catch up on that, you may need to consult your browser. Well, as a reaction to this, Islamic cleric Sheikh Ahmed Gumi has reacted to the killing of Abu Bilal al-Muniki, identified as the second in command of the Islamic State by United States forces in collaboration with the Nigerian military. In separate Facebook posts, Gumi said, nobody cries for terrorists, but every patriotic citizen should cry for sovereignty. And I have to quote him directly right here. On Facebook, he wrote, we're going to have it in two, that nobody cries for terrorists, but every patriotic citizen should cry for our sovereignty. Aerial bombing of stationary targets is no rocket science that demands foreign forces firing on our land. He continued that it is a religious obligation to annihilate terrorists, but not with Beelzebub and hand-stained with the blood of innocent men, women, and children, whoever innocent men are in that post. Now, under his comment section, we have Hassan Mohammed Megari. He says, sorry, sir, I am your follower. If your house catches fire and someone comes to help in order to off it, will you accept his help? We appreciate President Donald Trump's help. Long live Federal Republic of Nigeria. Long live United States of America. We pray one day Nigeria will be a peace state, sir. And we cannot help but say a loud amen. For Kayode, he says, someone wrote on his Facebook timeline, I did not believe until I heard Dr. Ahmed Abubakar Mahmoud Gumi crying. That's his Facebook name, by the way. I just confirmed that. For Victor, he says, please take heart, sir. We understand the pain and its depth. I'm not sure what Victor meant. Why you condoling with Gumi on the killing of, I don't know. For Daniel James, he says, Gumi manage. It is painful, but you have to manage. As he hot and says, somebody said that you were next on American list. How true is it? Well, maybe he gave you an earlier response when he says he got a call from that big room in Abuja telling him that he was on the U.S. wanted list. All right, two more stories. Kidnappers have released videos of victims abducted during attacks on schools in Orile, Lagos local government area of Oyo State, including a nursing mother and the principal of Community High School, Rachel Alamu. The victims, who were kidnapped alongside staff and students during the attacks on multiple schools in the area, pleaded for urgent intervention, while Governor Seyi Makinde has assured residents that security agencies are intensifying rescue efforts.
I am making this video to ask for help from everyone starting from the federal government of Nigeria and the Oyo State government, Engineer Seyi Makinde, the Christian Association of Nigeria, and all well-meaning Nigerians, that they should come to our help and settle this thing peacefully so that our lives will not be lost.
And we are making now both the teachers and the children. We are all here. We need help from the federal government and the state government, both the church, First Baptist Church, Yawata, and the community.
All right, let's see how you react to this. We'll take Agbonaye Victor. It says the abduction of school principals, teachers, students, and now even a mother with her infant is pure evil. Oyo State and the federal government must treat this as a national emergency, deploy every necessary force, rescue them quickly, and end this madness. Another thought from this user, Well with Wale, says, while security is not part of the mandate of the Southwest Development Commission, it is important to note that the Commission has the capacity to ensure they get state government in partnership with Police Nigeria to provide needed protection for the southwestern state. No investment will survive in the south if our people continue to live in fear because of the invaders who have chosen to run from the north to the south because of the continued military bombardment of their hideout. More thought to this. Bravo says, why would it happen when all the Amotekun operatives are always stationed at different parties? If not birthday party, it will be funeral or weddings. Bravo says that. Hookage says, kind of word, Seyi Makinde indicated interest to run for presidency last week, and they remembered his state this week. Laughing out loud, the jokes write themselves. That's what Hawkage is saying in reaction to this. But top of all of this conversation is the unconditional release or rescue, whatever we want to put it. They have to come back to us and come back safe. All right, everyone, that's the size of Kakaaki Social this morning. Thanks a bunch for being a part of it. I'm Rena OBO, everywhere on social media, and we are AIT_online. The program has not ended. It will return after this break.
Today's global economy, information is everywhere, but insight is rare.
Because of the high rate of fuel, the cost of commodities, cost of everything in this country is high.
This is unacceptable because Nigerians cannot be made to suffer every time.
So, where do you turn for clarity? The right questions.
What is the need for Nigerians? Let's really break it down. Income strata-wise, revenue strata-wise for companies. What are some of the inhibitions that are not making trade work for all?
The real answers.
Stimulus package must take a different shape beyond what we have seen in sharing of rice, sharing of money.
Nancy brings it to you on Moneyline with Nancy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Moneyline with Nancy.
Clear, well-researched conversations focused on what truly impacts you.
Is it that we don't know the number of MSMEs we have in the country, or we don't know where they are?
I don't think we can identify 40-something million MSMEs as a people and as a country.
Nigeria has the policy framework in place to be a leader on this approach. You can make farmers bankable.
Moneyline with Nancy now airs 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Weekdays, live on AIT and online. If it matters to the economy, join us.
My baba, they always say, for market, every day gets your own wahala. Sometimes people go on scam you. But Baba say, no be by gra. You must cool down, dey sharp. Because with OPay payment, your money go enter sharp, no story. But inside market, anything fit happen. One day, we no see phone again. My baba remember OPay USSD lock, dial *955*131#. Baba press am, lock account. from market woman to driver, from small boy to big man. Now OPay, they protect people like us. My papa fit sell, press phone, collect POS, and still they teach me price. And when they don't tire am, go just tap OPay night guard. We no fear for this our hustle life. Now OPay be the people payment shield.
Kakaaki, unwrap joy, unleash taste. Progress no dey happen just like that. It dey come from support when you need am.
Mommy, I got the school fees. You too much.
Na money point oh.
Money point, thank you.
Customer, na transfer abi? Confirm.
Bro, na transfer.
Na money point oga. Oh, na confirm.
Progress na peace of mind when you know say payment go land as sure banker. Progress na small wind where they carry person go far.
No worry, yourself go make am. Mo go buy ball.
Victor, even you they use money point?
Of course now, they use money point.
Confirm.
Money point, made for your progress.
Well, thank you for staying with us. It's now time for us to bring you our second talking point. And like we said earlier, we're going to be looking at the outbreak of Ebola in certain countries, what this means for Nigeria's preparation and where we are at. And we have Professor Adamu Aikala, Professor of Infectious Disease Epidemiology and Director, Global Health and Infectious Disease Control Institute in Nasarawa State University. Kefi, it's good to have you.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning, Professor, and welcome.
Thank you.
Well, let's begin by looking at why this is happening in Africa. There's been we've had so many conspiracy theories about these diseases, H1N1, Ebola, even HIV in Africa. And between 2014 and 2016, Africa lost more than 11,000 people. And over the weekend in East Africa, the DRC and Uganda, Ebola has popped up again. More than 80 people are dead. So why Africa?
Why Africa? Because the disease is endemic, and there are a lot that we needed to do that we have not done in terms of coordination, in terms of looking at funding gaps, also local resource mobilization. We have not. Why Africa? Because a lot has to be done in terms of looking at the solution from African-made solutions. So we have not deployed resources to see how we can be able to develop diagnostics, vaccines strictly from Africa. We depend on the South Pole. So we have not yet actually look at in terms of leadership, in terms of public health. So why Africa? Because the disease is endemic. We refuse to actually look at the disease as an endemic disease, cutting across from Lassa fever down to Ebola and all what have you. So we still depend on the South Pole for virtually everything. We depend on the South Pole for coordination. We depend on the South Pole for resources for funding. We depend on the South Pole for virtually vaccines and diagnostics. We depend on the South Pole for virtually everything. So why Africa? Because Africa refused to take responsibility for what it is coming out from Africa.
You didn't talk about the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, conspiracy theory, thank God, because stations like Channel Steve, AIT, doing a lot in terms of trying to look at how the impact of conspiracy theory has, even in public health. When we saturate our community and do a lot of community engagement, we wouldn't have issues of conspiracy theory. The reason is because we have not yet passed the right message to the right community, to the right people. And that's why issues of conspiracy theories are coming up. Of course, you know, in 2014, I don't know what is going to happen now. I don't know whether you also bet with salt or you drank.
No, I didn't.
My sister drank Arabian tea that is exported from her, although she stays in Abuja. I don't know where she was in 2014. So it's just because we left a gap, and it is the communication gap. If we pass through the right means, and that's why, as a Superintendent Institute of Public Health, and I have this belief that the concept of public health should not only be limited to people that direct sciences, should also go beyond that to bring people like you to actually have an idea about scientific communications, about public health communications, because we need to communicate the right message. We only limited the concept of public health advocacy and communication to only the medics, and they find it very difficult to pass the right message. So it is actually a huge communication gap.
All right, so why does the virus kill so rapidly? Again, I mean, look at the number of infections and people who have died so far. Why is it so fast?
It is so fast because the current strength is different from the strain that has been causing the disease in time past.
Yes.
The strain that has been causing the disease in time past is the Zaire strain. And there have been development of vaccines around Zaire strain. The Zaire strain too has a bit of manageable case management templates. But the current strain causing the disease, it is what it is referred to as the Bodingio strain. So it is a strain that has high case fatality rate. You can see that over 80 people are dead. And another thing that this is quite unique and strange at this time is because of geographical vulnerability. It happens in DRC Congo, that borders Sudan, that also borders part of Uganda. And within the East DRC, you find out that there are a lot of mining activities going on. And also, there has been issues of insecurity. So transborder movement is high within that region. And that's why Uganda just reported 2 cases. Why it is so is because a different strength is ongoing now in terms of transmissibility, and also because of transborder movements.
Now, looking at this Bodingio strain, I'm wondering what kind of preventive measures can be taken, because I recall that in 2014 there were a number of there were some protocols that were set by the NCDC.
Absolutely.
Do they still apply to
same protocol
to this?
Same protocol for Lassa fever, same protocol for hantavirus that I've seen your program last month, and I was also here last month to shed more light. Same protocol for virtually all the viral hemorrhagic fever. Same protocol for SARS-CoV-2. Just the non-pharmaceutical measures, washing of hands, we make sure that we use hand sanitizers, you avoid overcrowding, you also avoid, social distancing has to be in place. Issues of improved health-seeking behavior. Someone is sick, he has to seek for medical attention in appropriate health centers.
What about people? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm thinking, because the moment you talked about social distancing, my head jumped into that space where Nigerian travelers, road travelers are. A lot of people travel by air-conditioned buses these days.
Absolutely.
So what kind of measures can they take while on such journeys?
So because we did not standardize most of our protocol, I just came back from Rwanda 2 weeks ago, and they still maintain the social distancing in their airports, in their public transport system. So one, we don't have an organized public health transport system that has the public health outlook. We don't, so even issues of urbanization. You could imagine Abuja, virtually everywhere you go, you see estate developers developing virtually every empty piece of land, trying to share plots to people to buy. Nobody is thinking about the One Health approach. Nobody is thinking that we're encroaching into the ecosystem, a biodiversity of rodents that can transmit Lassa. Nobody is bringing the urban public health component into it. So as a country, we have not yet formalized certain things. If we formalize our transport system, definitely the issues of enforcement of social distancing will not be a problem. Why is Rwanda getting it right? Why is Kenya getting it right? Why are South Africans getting it right? Because virtually everything that has to do within the public health space, they have gotten it right. And enforcement is quite key.
I mean, talking about the time when this outbreak started till about now, one would have thought that perhaps an effective cure for Ebola would have emerged, even on maybe, test stage. Why has it been difficult?
So I made mention about deliberate leadership, continental leadership involvement. So let me give you an instance, my dear sister. If we take the issue of Lassa virus as a country, because Lassa virus was discovered in a village in Maiduguri called Lassa, and we have a national grand challenge. Let's assume that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu comes up with ₦1 billion national grand challenge for a diagnostics by Nigerian scientists through the challenge, either through the Federal Ministry of Health or through Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare or through Federal Ministry of Education. My dear brother, within 24 to 48 hours, you will get a prototype of a product. The same thing with vaccines. The same thing with even understanding digital templates for forecasting public health, preparedness, and disease modeling. So continentally, we have not yet come up in terms of coordination to find solutions to our own public health problems. If not, we should be able to have a continental health challenge, get scientists to develop these things. We have a lot of African scientists that are doing well outside this country, most especially in Nigeria. So I have some of my friends that are doing well in Zanopi. They are doing well in Serum Institute in India. They are vaccinologists. They develop vaccines. But we are not deliberate about looking at our own problem and see to have solutions should come from African continent. The issue of also dependence on donors. We also depend virtually on donors-driven initiatives and projects, even in Nigeria and in Africa. The African CDC just needed $20 million for this response for Ebola in DRC and also in Uganda. They were able to raise only $2 million. So we must also begin to look around the health economy component of resource mobilization in-house, within Africa, within Nigeria. We need guys to be able to marshal out how can we raise resources locally to solve our local problems, other than depending on donors
and aids.
Why?
You know, a friend of mine said...
And then, for example, we depended on AIDS for HIV and AIDS, and when the funding was cut off, virtually all the data that was generated in this country for the past 30 years, we lost them. We lost them to the donors.
One of our respondents, who is also a friend of mine on this program, said, if I want to know, I think it was on our radio, our sister station, Ray Power. He said, if I want to know where your interests lie, I will look at where you put your money.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to know, if you take a look at all of these issues, Africa seems to be the one taking the short end of the stick all of the time. So why do you think that governments across the continent, not just in Nigeria, spend a lot less on health matters rather than other things? We keep talking about infrastructure. Let's build infrastructure, build overhead bridges, build roads, yet people are dying of diseases. Malaria kills hundreds of thousands of people every year. So I'm wondering, what do you think it would take for government to take this issue seriously?
It will not take anything. It's just our priority. Once we get our priorities right, it solves it. I was involved in the national public health space, and I was hired as a consultant by IFRC to develop the national cholera plan for the country, which was launched in 2025. And we did a hotspot mapping for cholera cases in Nigeria and how cholera outbreaks are endemic every year, we approached the Nigerian Governors Forum to share the hotspot mapping results to them. Some governors sees, of course, you know that cholera is a social disease. Once you provide water, you take away cholera. But they look at provision of water as not their priority. They look at certain issues. These are issues that you can just solve them if you place your priorities right. I superintended over a PhD research that we got a grant on how to be able to raise resources for health insurance for Nigerians within the informal sector. You know that our market women are not covered by insurance. Yes. Our mechanics and our artisans are not covered by insurance. They are faced daily with occupational hazards. They have nowhere to get their treatment from because they pay out of pocket through catastrophic spending. So we came up with a model of using the telecom subcharge, 50 kobo, and we developed a mathematical model which is feasible to generate close to ₦1 trillion yearly that we can fund health insurance. So it's about priority. And one of our recommendations is if we have a bank of industry, we have bank of agri. What stops us from having health bank, National Health Bank, where we domicile this money in, where this money can be used? An individual like you can have a wallet for insurance. My elder sister here can have a wallet for insurance, and people can become. So it's the issue of getting a national priority set goals as a country. Once we get the leadership right, we get everything right.
All right, so now that we have the alert, now that, the NCDC has come out to say no infection yet discovered in Nigeria, and there has not been any death recorded to Ebola, even though we see the outbreak and the deaths that have happened in perhaps DRC and in Uganda. What can individuals begin to do? Because again, remember that the danger of such a news is it creates public anxiety.
Absolutely.
And panic. A lot of people are already calling to say, is it true? Absolutely. What do we do? Are we going back to wearing masks? Are we going back to sanitizers? But the truth is one must take care of their health regardless of an outbreak or not. But how do we, stop the danger of this becoming a pandemonium?
Passing the right information, just like what we're doing now. We just need to communicate the right message to the right people, to the right community. So issues of advocacy, public health advocacy, should be something of utmost importance. Let me share something with you. 2 months ago, I was in East Africa, and I saw something unique. There's what is called MTN Momo. MTN Momo here we use for recharge for our data and our credit unit to make calls. In East Africa, MTN Momo is a telehospital. It's a hospital on your palms. They call it hospital on your palms. So you log in certain codes through MTN. You get health advisories. You get public health messages. You can also have the nearest hospital on your palms, because one of the fewer things that the Nigerians get used to more daily is their phones, and ability to actually pass messages through this is quite key. So what stops if I want to query a boat from here to maybe Maitama, and then as I query the boat waiting for my driver, I should be able to see a health advisory. Have you washed your hands, Akala? Try to maintain a social distance. Or I just open a bank app to send money to my elder sister here, and then after some waiting of time, I should be able to see it. So we must be able to be deliberate and strategic in terms of communication, in terms of public health advocacy. Once we get that, we diffuse the community with the right message. Issues of misinformation, de-information, issues of might, anxiety that comes with fake news will not arise.
Well, Prof, as you spoke,
and then one thing I've saw that is very key in East Africa is that organizations like you get funding, get support. I don't think I have asked key people, stakeholders within the communication space, whether you have funding. And I see that there is a funding gap. And I think this is a gap that we need to close. What stops us from saying that AIT have a special health program? Can we build capacity of people like you to become health correspondents, to become health experts, to communicate well? Can we be strategic about, of course, in CNN, if you ask me about 1 or 2 BBC health experts, I know because I've had...
We do have a health program and a correspondent.
But like something unique, you get funding from. You get funding from local and international organizations to even have a hospital on TV, you know, get expert over 1 hour, 2 hours to talk about certain things that are quite endemic, buy airtime. So we need to be strategic in terms of our communication industry and public health.
Now, I'll take you back to the hospital in your town.
Yes.
Because as you spoke, I pictured in my head the infrastructural issues that Nigeria is facing when it comes to health facilities. If you go online, you're going to see a myriad of complaints about the kind of situations people face when they go to health facilities across Nigeria. So if you're saying we could do something like that in Nigeria, shouldn't we first deal with the problem of infrastructure, or like in the local parlance, they say, let us drive away the fox before we come back to remonstrate with the chicken.
Oh, so I agree with you, but let me give you an analogy within a traditional banking system. In time past, you fill in a check, you go to the bank, a background check will be done on you, whether the check you are linked to the account. It takes days for the check to be cleared. We just slept and woke up, and there was a revolution within the fintech. Now you have an app. I don't know last I went to the banking hall.
I signed a check.
Yeah. I can make transaction using my app. As simple as that. So we need to disrupt the healthcare system using telehealth. Let me share something with you. I saw very unique in South Africa and in Cape Town. They did what is called consolidation of their public health system. Soludo came with banking reforms and consolidation. We need health reforms. He consolidated merged banks. In South Africa, their health system is driven by public-private partnership, and it is consolidated. They have less than 10 private labs all over the country. If you want to open a lab, you get a franchise. These guys bring resources to set up a lab for you and monitor it that you meet up with standards. In Nigeria, we have proliferations of labs, proliferations of hospitals, proliferations of maternity and clinics. No reforms, no consolidations. So we need a kind of a disruptive thinking towards our public health space. We need actually a reform that brings telemedicine together and midwife private health sector so that most of these things can be handled. If we continue in this trajectory, let me ask you something, sir. We are talking about Ebola now. We have BVN that is linked to our finances, linked to our accounts. We have NIMC, which is our identity. We don't have a number that speaks to our health status as a country. We don't have it. That speaks to your insurance. Is it possible we have a synchronized number that speaks to BVM, that speaks to national identity, that also speaks to our health status identity? So I'm proposing a national health identification number, which is quite key. We have that number attached to you. We look at your treatment history. We look at the doctor that has seen you last. We look at your insurance profile, and we catalog you and we profile you. It's also linked to your birth certificate. Do you know that some of my friends are the aspirants to APC, they were disqualified because of their date of birth on their certificate, on their voters' cards? My friend was banned for 10 years for not going into the UK because he lied in his birth certificate. A white man will not trust you if you lie because of your date of birth.
Nobody will trust you.
Nobody will trust you. But we don't have a
basic
as that. We don't have a database that collates those informations. So going forward, just like the way I say, it's the issue of leadership, issue of coordination, setting our priorities right, and we'll get it right. I'm looking forward for a new Nigeria with a reformed public health sector.
Well, what you said is very germane and quite novel. But again, you would also look at the area of awareness for this to actually be established, because even some people don't go to hospital. They self-medicate. I know people who have never visited the hospital for the past 10 years. They don't even know what their history is. So
the reform will take care of that.
Absolutely. And there's some who believe in herbal medicine.
Yeah.
So how do you also balance that?
Yeah, we need to also integrate herbal medicine. You go to some African countries, it is institutionalized.
Like Ghana.
Like Ghana. So what is stopping us from institutionalizing our herbal medicine? The solution to Ebola may be in Nigeria. Antivirus may be in Nigeria. Lassa fever may be in Nigeria. So we need to integrate orthodox medicine into our national policies, health policies, and then the way forward. And I think that it is possible. A new Nigeria is possible.
Cross River State had this COVID-19 case recently. What's the update on that? Is it still about that single person, the Chinese?
I think we have forgotten about COVID-19 because of misinformation, fake news, and all what have you. We've forgotten. I know 3 people called me yesterday that they lost their sense of smell and tests. I knew it was COVID because we don't test for COVID again. We don't do active surveillance for COVID. COVID has stayed with us. COVID is like malaria now that people have. So we have left most of those things in time past. In fact, we have returned back pre-COVID. I thought maybe COVID would have shaped our focus, shaped our coordination, shaped our leadership in terms of public health space. But we have forgotten. Most African countries reject their public health system strengthening during COVID, as we have returned back.
Unlike the way that aviation has been streamlined across the world, that hasn't happened in the health sector in Nigeria. But my final question to you, because we have to go now. Town and gown collaboration. Because we've talked about a number of things this morning that I think that governments from the local level to the state governments and the federal should be looking at, revolutionizing the healthcare sector as a whole. How far will this collaboration between the research institutes, the universities,
medical laboratory scientists,
and all of that?
I come from the academia, so let me speak within that point. It's so sad. Let me give you a scenario about myself. I was a Dutch-British trained scientist. In fact, I did my master's in the UK. I did my PhD in the Netherlands. Part of my postdoc in the US. Over 100 million naira was spent on me by TED Fund. I got one of the best laboratory experience I can ever have in life. I returned back to the university to teach SS1 and SS2 biology. No platform, no labs, no state-of-the-art lab. So if I would have had my PhD in Nigeria with the same money and just spent 3 months and have that exposure, and the rest of the money would have been used to set up a lab, that would have gone far.
I think this is a conversation to continue because it's getting deeper.
What are the products coming out from our university? Certificates? While Texas State University is declaring profit more than my state IGR for a whole year and a budget, where are the patents?
All right, Prof, we're going to have to leave it there for this morning. Thank you very much for coming on the program. We'll be talking to Professor Adamu Akela, who is a professor of infectious diseases, epidemiology, and is the director of the Global Health and Infectious Diseases Control Institute at the Nasarawa State University, just a few kilometers away from us in Kefi, that's in Nasarawa State. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right, it's a good place to leave it this morning too. Kakaaki, the African Voice, wrapping it up for Monday. Join us again on Tuesday for another edition. I am Kunle Adewale, have a great day. Stay safe wherever you are.
I'm Adora Sydney Jack. Goodbye for now.